I've got some multi-track drums, and let's look at how we can use the compressors on these. Right now they're all being output to a drum bus over here, and here they are with no compression. There's just a bit of EQ on the individual tracks, and here's what it sounds like as is. There's a bit of general reverb here that's being used for some of the sends on some of the tracks, but I also have another subgroup here for the drums with specific drum room reverb over here. Alright, so let's look at these one at a time. Now I have my two overhead channels subgrouped here to an overhead bus so that I can apply one compressor to both of them. So here they are with just their EQ, no compression. Now let's look at the black and the white on them. I've dialed in some settings. I'm going to start and stop it, or rather start it, but just bypass them on and off, the black and then the white, so we can hear what they're doing. So they're both fairly conservative. I think in this case I like the black. It's got a bit of snap to it, the way it's grabbing the transients and compressing them. I have light limiting, 12:1 ratio, and by the standards of the 1176 here at least, it's a fairly slow attack, although it's still pretty quick objectively, but a fairly slow attack and a medium release. And it's grabbing them nicely. It's not too over compressed, but enough to give it some pop. So I'm going to go with the black on this one. Now let's move on and look at the kick drum. I'll solo it alone, and I have the black dialed up how I like it, but let's listen alone and then I'll put it in. So here what I've chosen to do is use a lot of gain reduction. I have a high input. I'm really driving the input, and I'm using a lot of gain reduction, but only an 8:1. I say only, it's still a lot, but only 8:1 rather than going crazy with the all button or the hard limiting. So a lot of gain reduction, 8:1, and the quickest attack I can get, because I really wanted to grab the transients and compress them. And as far as the release, I have a fairly slow release because I don't want to get too much of a pumping and breathing sound. Once the compressor kicks in, I want it kind of staying in. I'll play it again and dial these in the opposite directions, and you'll hear the effect that they'll have. So I find those work best for me. Let's move on. The snare drum, the holy grail of them all. Everyone's always working on snare drum sounds. And this one, there's no right or wrong. They both sound good. Here it is with no compression. And with the black. They both sound good. I'm really not sure which one I like better. I'm going to leave the white in for now, and I'll hear what they sound like when I have the entire bus together, which is going to be now. The hi-hat I'm leaving unprocessed. It's just a hi-hat sound. I have a steep roll-off on the low end, and I'm just letting some of the highs slip through. Let's listen to the bus, and I have the white 2A on the bus. Let's hear it as it is right now with no compression on the bus, and I want to just toggle these two and see what I like better. I'm going to leave it with the white for now. Now with the drum bus, I've dialed in the white with somewhat more aggressive settings. I just really like the sound of this on the drum bus. And on. So here I'm using it for limiting. We can really hear the compressors grabbing in when they're all summed like this. No one single of them is doing too much. Probably this one's doing the most. but I have it in limiting mode, good strong peak reduction, and I am using a lot of makeup gain here. This isn't an attempt to even them out. It's without it. So it's really grabbing it nicely. Now with that in, let me toggle these two compressors on the snare and see. Can't go wrong with either of them. Now on the bus with the reverb, I put a compressor before to really squash the signal going into the reverb, just to get a bit of an effect. Let's solo this bus for a moment. So here I am driving it hard, 12 to 1, a lot of dBs of reduction. I want to have it give some snap and pop to the reverb. Now let's blend the two. Yeah, we've got a nice drum room happening, and let's listen in context. So we got some nice pop on those drums. We'll look at more in the next video.